All right, so I am on a call here going over with people over on TikTok the 20 biggest untruths of the world or spiritual myths. And so I'm just going to trust that whoever's on, they're going to get whatever number they happen to cruise along with. But I encourage any of you, if you have any questions, if you disagree, if you want more explanation, if it's something that you struggle with, not only do I have the untruths, but then these are the things that I mentor people with. So I tend to have a big toolbox as to how I can help you with these particular things too. Okay, so who's on? Who's ready? Just making sure that there are people that are interested. All right. So, and hello, let's see who we got here. Is it Dion and the ASMR Collective, Jacqueline, Luna, hello, Angela, Michael, Funhouse. I'm not sure who all is still on. Fab Rehab, Gen X, I love it. Two, welcome everybody. Okay, so beginning with number one. Number one of the 20 biggest untruths of the world or spiritual myths. Number one, ready? Death is the end. Death is the end. Truth. Existence cannot not exist. Forms, identities, and perspectives change, but existence itself remains. There's no actual beginning or end. And if you think about it this way, the idea even itself of non-existence, by very definition of its quality, is that it doesn't exist. Therefore, leaving nothing but existence. So, existence is and always has been and always will be without a beginning or an end. Now, of course, any of these things can be experienced individually and subjectively. You don't have to agree with any of them, but what I would like to challenge you the most on today is less about what your history is with these beliefs and whether it makes as much logical sense to you, as instead ask yourself, how does it feel to believe? So if you're like, well, I don't believe that. I believe that we cannot exist and that there is an end. Okay? So when given two choices, that is a belief, or that you are an eternal being that can never not exist and you're full of infinite possibilities, ask yourself instead which one feels more true, which one feels better to believe. Because you have a choice in the matter of what you believe. And so you may choose to adopt a new belief today simply because not only because you're feeling the truth in it, not just what your patterns have told you before. Okay, so once again, death is the myth is that death is the end. The truth is existence cannot not exist. Forms, identities, and perspectives change, but existence itself remains, and there's no actual beginning or end. Number two, and anyone that has anything that they want to share about that, I would love to hear your thoughts on number one. Number two, you can make a permanently wrong choice. You can make a permanently wrong choice. Interesting. So that's one of the big myths. Truth. In an infinite universe, no experience is ultimately locked away. Consciousness explores possibilities through focused timelines. Continuity as an example of only one of many experience templates. So this is one that sometimes will blow people's mind when I say it, but excuse me, anytime that we're at a choice point, even if it's an apple or an orange, which seems like who cares, right? Apples and oranges are both good and might taste good and might be good for our body. But anytime that we're faced with a choice and we choose the apple instead of the orange, because that choice lit up two different timelines and both of them are equally choosable, any timeline that's been lit up is something that just by way of us knowing it's choosable can be experienced. Now, the myth is that we have this one and only lifetime to only choose the apple, bump, 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 and that we will never have that orange at that moment ever again. And that you best get this mother frickin' life right because it's your one life. You know, even in songs, there's one life. You've got to live, you know, that kind of stuff. But once again, let's challenge that. Let's not just say how it feels or how whether that makes sense or not. Ask yourself, how does it feel to believe you have this one life that you can F up and that by God, you better get it right? Does that feel good, or does it feel better to believe that even at our supposed death, in that when we, I know that there is a real experience of death. I'm not denying that. But at physical death, what if it were true that we could go back since all time is existing at once? We can go to that exact point in time and actually eat the orange instead of the apple. And not again as on just one little choice, but what if we have the choice of, oh my gosh, do I go to college and become a doctor, or do I become a lawyer? That's a big difference in a life split with very different timelines. What if it's true that at death, you actually can go right back into that exact choice point and live out the alternative choice? And again, ask yourself, not whether or not you think it's true, but how it feels to believe that's true. Doesn't it feel good to believe that it's true, that you actually can't mess up? Nothing is locked in. And yes, you can have a very tight, continual experience of only ever being a doctor and not being the lawyer in this life. But what if it were true that after you fulfilled your life, you could go back to that point? And if it really was still a desire for you to fulfill that branch of a timeline, that was equally choosable to also experience in density of time and space, just like you did with the doctor example. So that is what my guides have shared with me to be the truth. And so, and how I discern things is, again, how expansive does it feel? How inclusive does it feel? How loving does it feel? And to me, that hits all those points. And so therefore it's a greater truth for me. Cool. Okay. Thoughts on that? Has anyone ever heard that before, where it's like, or have you given yourself permission to believe that to be true? What if every single choice that you just like, oh, I gotta get this choice right? What if it really didn't matter, and that what mattered the most was that you went all in on the choice that you made? What if the second maybe you could go more all in on the choice that you make, knowing that there is another version of you that is doing the other choice. And if you really want to embody that experience in a very dense third dimensional experience, you can after you do the other one. What if you can have it all? Then how would you leap? How would you move forward if you could have it all and you really weren't missing out on anything? Because that's true. Okay, thoughts. Number 3. Which this is very similar to the last one. Number 3, the myth is you can miss your chance forever. Bum, bum, bum. And the truth, reality contains infinite branching pathways. Even experiences not chosen here remain explorable in consciousness at later times. Okay, so that's just in keeping what I just said. So what if it were true that you can't miss any chances on anything forever? Not does it make sense, but how good does it feel to believe that to be true? And what if that could be something you could adopt? How would you move going forward if that was your new truth? Okay, myth number 4, you're unworthy. I know you guys have heard this a million times, right? Truth, worth is inherent to existence itself. You do not need to earn the right to exist. And sometimes, you know, when I work with clients and we do our meditation at the beginning of sessions and stuff, every time we go into a meditation and we go out into the depth of the now, and and explore and calm our nervous system and get really very present. When we start coming back to the seated one that's on the call, what I often will do is say, okay, now as you are coming back into these coordinates of time and space and you're anchoring into the chair where you're sitting on the call with me, taking a nice deep breath in and out, and then with your full free will, knowing that God, source, whatever word you have for it, has fractalized itself out into the exact configuration of you with no exceptions. Whether you have a pimple, a bruise, a cut, a scar, stinky armpits, whatever it is, right? Whatever thing that you're damning in yourself, source is not. Source is glorifying 100% of you. And in fact, the more unique or weird the things are that you see of yourself that you're not seeing in other people, the more needed you are to represent, man. So, yes, you are beyond worthy in the exact configuration that you are in this very moment. And that's never not been true. Okay, number 5 is you must suffer to deserve joy. Ooh, truth. Pain can teach, but suffering is not a requirement for love, abundance, wisdom, or growth. That is an illusion. And again, think about this. Why? All the no pain, no gain, all of these things that are saying that you have to touch the depths of like suffering in order to truly feel alive. What if that was, here's the thing, our beliefs are so ironclad to the universe, it's just a mirror. So whatever we believe is true will be reflected back to us. So if you believe that you must have deep sacrifice or pain in order to have a reward, you will create that experience. But you can also have the experience that you get to live a life of heaven on earth, and that there can be challenges, but the challenges can even feel fun, and that you don't have to live in suffering in order to grow. What if you could grow through grace and ease? And then once again, instead of trying to argue for our limitations, ask yourself, not do you believe if that's true, but how good does it feel to adopt that belief? And if it feels better than what you're believing before, then it might be something that you can adopt. And once you say, I'm able to learn my lessons through grace and ease to a law of attracted mirrored reality, then what happens? Then it starts to confirm itself to where all of a sudden your even lessons or challenges are met with grace and ease, and you move through them really easily, and it can even be fun. Okay, so number 6, exhaustion. Ooh, this is a big one. Exhaustion equals virtue. Exhaustion equals virtue. Myth. The truth is, burnout is not proof of goodness. It is a sign that you're living outside of your personal integrity. Okay, so once again, exhaustion equals virtue. Myth. The truth is, burnout is not proof of goodness. It is a sign that you're living outside of your personal integrity. If you think of authenticity, it's so funny. If you were to call somebody inauthentic, people think that when you say that they're inauthentic, they'll take it personally and think that you're calling them a liar, right? But if you really think of authenticity, a lot of times people that are inauthentic are not ever lying to somebody else, but what they're lying to is themselves. In that if for instance, people like totally hate their job or hate going to family events or hate, you absolutely hate doing something, but you do it anyway, you're actually not living with your integrity. I'm not saying it's not challenging to make those switches, but the deeper we live in authenticity, that's where we have our energy. Because people who are in burnout are those who are doing things out of their integrity, out of their authenticity, out of their highest excitement. And they're feeling burned out because they're living a life of I have to instead of I get to. And they don't believe that they are worthy enough to have a life where they get to do what is their highest excitement. And so changing that, and the more that you can be in your integrity and starting small with little choices that might feel difficult at first, like it might be starting just like not going to some events or something that you know your body's just doesn't have the energy for. Another thing that is connected to burnout too is when we are holding ideas that are in thought bubbles and thinking we have to do them now. So I call these reels REEL. So if you think about a thought bubble of next week and all the things that we are having to do that we can't actually take action on in our physical auric field now, that registers as burnout, exhaustion. And the reason is if we're running things that our physical body cannot do, we're also not living in our integrity, because our integrity and our higher self only lives here and now. And so when we are paired with our higher self uses our physical body to enact what it's wanting to do. So when you have something in a thought bubble and you're trying to think about 10 million things you're doing next week, and the anxiety of that, in fact, the reason you're even feeling anxiety at all is because that has nothing to do with right here and now, with what your physical body can actually do. And so that's what's causing so much anxiety and exhaustion in people's lives, is because they're running thought bubbles that are in REELs, movie reels, instead of living life in the REAL, which is only ever here and now in the physical body. So we have enough energy. In fact, not only do we have enough energy to complete things that our physical body can do in the now, not only do we have enough energy, but this is where we get charged up from our energy. So if you ever are struggling with exhaustion, think about how much you are strengthening an REEL thought bubble. And then how you can create a bridge back to it is, oh, there's that. What's real? What of these things can I do now? Because sometimes there'll be something next week you have to plan lunches for something. But where you're going to feel exhaustion is if you're running 3 of them at a time and you're not acting on those ideas. That also causes a lot of energetic funk. So what you want to do is use those future thinking ideas and be like, what about what I'm thinking about am I able to act on in this now moment? And then you do that, and then you do it again, and then you do it again. And if you stay in the flow of the now, you will not feel exhausted. You will not feel burnt out. You will have either feel peaceful, if not actually enlivened and charged. Especially if the things that you do, you're following your highest excitement. That's what not only just makes you feel at peace, but makes you actually feel charged up with life, is through excitement. Okay, let's see. So the myth again on number 6 is exhaustion equals virtue. It does not. The truth is that burnout's not proof of goodness. It's a sign you're living outside your personal integrity and authenticity. And okay, number 7, reality is happening to you. Myth. Truth, reality responds through resonance, perception, expectation, attention, and interaction. It is fueled by both positive emotion as well as what we most resist. So there are as many perspectives as there are people in the world having them, but I like to make them down to the 4 basic different channels, if you think of them like radio channels. And the first one is externally focused, and there's a world outside of ourselves that is happening to us. We're responding based on what we're seeing outside of ourselves, like what the government does, what our kids or our parents or teacher, whatever, they're the ones that are determining our existence and how we move forward. That means that the world is happening to me. It also, when you're in the mindset of the world's happening to us, there are victim, perpetrator, and hero stories. So it's a continual cycling through, oh man, I've got to do blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of have to, right? Because the world's happening to me. Okay, the next radio station dial up from that is where we start to gain empowerment. It's still externally focused. We still are reacting to what we see outside of ourselves, which is really just a mirror of our beliefs. But it's the next one is the world is happening by me. And if you think of the world happening to me versus the world happening by me, there's a form of empowerment there. This is where we roll up our sleeves and where we become really good doers. This is where the last one we're talking about exhaustion, people thinking is a virtue. This is where like, okay, well, we're working 12-hour days and we're bettering ourselves, or we're learning more about law of attraction or whatever it is. And we are finding improvement in our lives by this perspective, but we tend to burn out. We tend to get very exhausted because we're still trying to move around a bunch of things that are outside of ourselves. And they're giving me an image right now of a movie projector, right? It's like if you don't like the movie that's on the screen, you don't go up to the screen and try to touch the characters, that you realize, oh, that's just it's a movie. You go, if you don't want to watch a movie, you go to the projector, you take out the movie and you put in a new movie, which is basically like changing a belief about something. So, anyway, so the by me perspective is still people trying to kind of rearrange everything on the external. A massive shift happens between these two perspectives and the two after it, which, by the way, when you're in the to me and by me perspective, that you could call hell. And it's a nervous system that is in fight or flight, or all the F's, the freeze, the fawn, all this, and we're just in survival. And then the nervous system calms down as it jumps to this perspective, which is the world is happening, drum roll, for me. So this is when you start to realize, you realize that you're the projector, you are source, you are God, you are the one that the external world is only reinforcing what you believe to be true, and has only ever been doing that your whole life. And that's why everyone has such subjective realities. And we're only matching with the other people that have the most similar ideas of what the common field is, and we match with people that have the most opposing ones, because that's where we have the most emotional energy. So anyway, once we realize the world is happening for us, we know that whether something that is good is happening is meaning that it's in alignment with a positive belief system. But we also see that, if we get a reflection of something that is seeming to work against us, we're able to see, what might I be believing that isn't a distortion here that I can clean up a bit in order for me to get a different result. And so we go into the projector, we clean that belief up, thus changing our external reality from within. So these are external, and then you go within. You take full accountability for your beliefs, your emotions, and your reality, and you begin to start adjusting it so that the world can happen for you. And then the last perspective isn't even something that we have to try for. It's a result of doing the for me perspective really well. And that is the world is happening as me. And the recognition that you are the one creating your own reality. And so there's no more doer really in it. It is the beer. It is the observer. It is the natural state of you being in alignment with your higher self, you being in your integrity, you being in authenticity. And so you then begin to live life as the world is happening as me. And because you've cleaned up everything in the for me perspective, you get to then live again the for me and by and as me perspectives. You experience a life that feels like heaven on earth. So the to me and the by me is hell, and the for me and as me is a life living in a calm nervous system. You're out of survival. And because you're in peace and above with emotions, your reality reflects back to you peace and above experiences. Isn't that amazing? Okay. So that one was number 7. The myth is that reality is happening to you. The truth is the world is happening as you, though you can create the experience of all of those. But there's a higher truth in that you are all those experiences, really. Okay. Number 8 myth. You are separate from life. You are separate from life. The truth. The observer, the observed, and the act of observing arise together as one process. So you or we all are all experiences being experienced. The all is the one and the one is the all. You can't take consciousness. Consciousness is not whack-a-moling. It's not here, it's over there. You can't keep doing that because, I mean, you can create the experience of doing that, of course, but there's nothing that is devoid of source. There's nothing devoid of potential. Because everything is just isness, and we are that. And so when people believe that we are separate from that, that is when we have suffering. And let's tie this into one of the biggest myths or misconceptions that people have about the idea of original sin. How often do you hear people saying stuff like, well, I don't understand why people are saying like little infant newborns are like born of sin. Like they haven't done anything wrong. Like look at their innocence. This doesn't make sense. What's this original sin all about? All it is think of the ocean of source, right? And that we're just taking a little bit of the ocean by way of an identity, a baby. And we are... The second we make a vial of the ocean and call it by a name, that is the idea of separation. And it's no longer the ocean, it's a water in a vial by the name of Chloe or something, whatever the baby's name is, right? And so that is one of the first illusions or distortions, is that by us even having an identity, we begin to have a separate experience, and we forget for a long time, or we continue to remember that we have never not been the ocean, but for a time we take on the idea that we are only a vial, and in doing that we suffer. Every time that we forget that we're not source, we suffer at least a little bit. That's why we have loneliness. That's why we have grief. That's why we have anger. That any of the things that we react to is because we have forgotten in those moments that we are God. Okay, so again, this is going back to number 8, that you are separate from life, myth. Number 9, and then for those, if there's any new people on, we are going over the 20 biggest untruths of the world. This is all through a spiritual lens. Okay, so number 9, scarcity is the fundamental nature of existence. How good does that feel? I'm sure sometimes our lives feel like that. It's like, oh, it's just the natural thing, you know. You got to work hard and, you know, lack. Okay, but it's a myth. The truth is existence continuously generates new forms, possibilities, energy states, ideas, and connections. Source is only ever saying yes and yes and yes and. So you can say to Source, I'm a piece of crap. And Source will go, yes and. And in the yes, it's just saying, you believe you're a piece of crap. So I'm going to give you an external event to say what you're saying because you have complete and total free will. And there also, God, because it's or source is only a yes and, there is zero experiences that are damned. So source is instead of just being is good, you can look at source as being all things. There's literally nothing that's not a part of source. So we can take a certain files out there in the world, right? Because this is such a great example right now of what's happening with this, because some of the most like heinous things in the world, the reason that things are being even illuminated right now is because all the things that humanity has ever damned as being unexperienceable are having to come up for review. And what we mean by review is us recognizing all the stuff that we've ever damned. Okay, because whatever we damn with resistance damns us back in a mirrored reality. So the things that are the most damned are coming up so that, here's the thing, and this is really difficult for people, so that we neutralize it. And when I say neutralize it, all we need to do is get to the truth of how our higher self is seeing things, which is all experiences are experienceable to a source or God that only says yes and. God does not take away anything. It just will be like you want to do, like anything we could say that we could do, we are allowed to do. Now, I'm not saying that there's not penalties for things. I'm not saying to condone or to wish for or to hope for. I'm not saying that people aren't doing things out of separation that cause massive harm. Of course, that's happening. But what happens is when we damn those things energetically, inadvertently, we are still enlivening that branch of the existence. So in order for us to truly have what's preferred and truly not experience what's not preferred is by us neutralizing the event. And all we need to do is say, whoa, that's an experience that's experienceable in all things. Which means the Hitlers of the world, the politicians we hate, all of the things that we could ever even wildly imagine, if we see them as experienceable experiences, and by seeing them in truth too, it's also seeing, wow, that experience has tons of separation and tons of pain in it. Though the people in some of the most heinous things are because they are so far off from their recognition that they are source, and they're not seeing source in themselves, they're not seeing source in another, and that's why they can even commit the things that they're doing. And therefore they know not what they're doing, which just means that they don't have access to logic and reasoning. And by the way, earlier when I talked about the two perspectives of the to me and the by me perspective, when the nervous system is still in reactivity and it knows itself only externally and only separate from God, and it hasn't taken the law of attraction accountability yet, what happens is this can only ping pong shame back and forth, blame, shame, or there's also heroes in there, blame, shame, and I'm going to try to save the blame shamers, right? Anyway, and so when our nervous systems are not calm and we're in reactivity, we don't have access to the parts of our brain that actually have true logic and reasoning. And therefore, you can use the biblical term, they know not what they do. It doesn't mean that they are oblivious, like if they threw a rock on someone that they didn't know they threw a rock. It just means on a higher level that their nervous system was in reactivity. They saw the person as separate, which you can see separate is just sin. So sin is just recognizing separation and behaving an act through reactivity at another, forgetting that we are one. So you can just define sin as that. And so when people are doing that, what is happening is, again, they don't have access to logic and reasoning. They're only in their survival parts of their brain, and therefore they know not what they do. So when your nervous system calms, you start seeing that everything is happening for us, and we start to recognize what we've dams us back. Then we will never love. I mean, we're never going to be like, oh, yay, we want everything we're seeing in these files or whatever we're seeing on the news, of course, because we see separation in them. We see it clearly. But what we do is we don't live in the bitterness. We don't live in the continual now moment anger of a situation that's not happening in our subjectivity. And therefore, we're neutralizing it. And then we move forward with what we've learned from the files. Wow, I noticed that there's a lot of separation in there. What is that causing me to want in the world? And then we get to be the change and we move forward having learned what we did from them, but we are no longer putting energy in the damning of it, because again, damning anything is resistance, and what we resist persists, and then it causes us to continue to have the experience. And the more emotional fuel we have behind what we're resisting, the more that comes in our life, because it's like, again, the universe is only ever saying yes and yes. And if you're like, I really hate this, universe, the universe is like, you really hate this, and it'll give you another file to really hate the next day. Okay, so let's see. Scarcity is the fundamental nature of existence. So yeah, and I'm trying to think how that ties in. I know I went on a big tangent, but I think that was important to say. So basically, whatever we don't recognize as even the original sin, that we are the ocean of God, the more that we disidentify from being all experiences and part of the all as the all, then we experience that inside ourselves as scarcity or lack, when that's not really there. So the more that we can take in as experienceable experiences, and the more we liken to everything with neutrality or above and see the positive in things, the more that we live in our heavenly experience with a calm nervous system, the more we recognize how the law of attraction works as a yes and, then we we can also see this as the meek inheriting the earth. Meek not meaning weak or timid, but meek meaning that they've gone through the to me and by me perspectives and are comfortably living in how everything is happening for them as them. So when our nervous system calms, you can see that version of us being meek, and that we're naturally going into logic and reasoning. We are no longer in separation. And from that state, because we recognize the law of attraction, meaning yes and, we then speak or ask and it shall be received. And so that's when we're really starting to experience abundance in greater levels, not because we weren't worthy before, or that we had to prove or have some transactionality to get it. We just literally have cleared all of the beliefs that were blocking us from the ideas before that have always been there, because the kingdom of heaven is always here and now, and is always available with wild abundance. We always will be able to have what we need when we're in truth. Okay. And we don't always get what we want, because a lot of times sometimes what we want is also what we need, but everything we need is always what we need. Everything we want isn't always everything that we need. Sometimes we end up casting out a desire for something when, it's the idea of like, someone just really, really, this is kind of a silly example, but like saying, oh, I just really want a Ferrari, or whatever. And then if a huge flood came, you probably would have rather had a boat than the Ferrari. You know what I mean? So I know those are weird, not really modern day example, I guess the Ferrari, but like a huge flood where you need a Noah thing or whatever. But anyway, so just know that the universe knows everything that is best for us, and that when we can trust that, we will always get what we need. And a lot of times we will even get what we wanted, or something better. So scarcity is only part of the distortion mindset. So, number 10, change means something is wrong. Change means that something is wrong. That's myth number 10. The truth is that change is a property of form, not a failure of existence. Resisting the continuous ever-changing flow is where we experience the greatest suffering. So, I don't know if you guys have heard me say before the 5 truths that are always true, because there's so much subjectivity that I love these, which are: these things cannot be questioned. Number 1, we exist. Try proving you don't, right? Number 2, the all is the one and the one is the all. Number 3, everything is here and now. Number 4, what we put out is what we get back. And number 5, the only constant is change. The only things that don't change are those other 4 things I just mentioned. And so, since change is constantly happening, there's always a new millisecond of some new configuration. Maybe it's just a upper end of a breath versus the lower end of a breath. Maybe nothing else has changed other than the pattern of our breathing from second to second. But nonetheless, that is still a fundamentally full, brand new, different version of us. Every single second, there's trillions and trillions and trillions of versions of us that we are moving through that are all different configurations. So it's the only constant is change. The myth, again, is that change means something is wrong, and that change is the natural way of law. So the more that we fight change, the more that we suffer. Have you ever noticed that? Boy, do we love our comfort zones, or our personality structure does. This is the way it is now. Whew. It's like, So our personality structure will often see anything outside of the comfort zone, anything that has change, it reads as alarm bells, because it knows that who it thinks it is going to die to the new version of ourselves. So it reads like death, and it's like, nope, I will do anything to maintain the identity that I have the way it is now. But the more that we can be in alignment with the truth, in that the only constant is change, and the more that we genuinely go with the flow, and the more that we're willing to actually die to older versions of ourselves, knowing that the only thing that we are actually going to find in the unknown is more of the truth and who and what we are, then we can soften to these ideas, and it'll start feeling not only safer to go outside of our comfort zone, but it'll feel exciting, and we will know that we will be expanding and expanding. And again, the only thing you're going to find in the unknown is the more of the truth of who and what you are, more joy, more expansion, even less scarcity, more connection, more of the all of which you are. So again, the myth is that change means something is wrong. It does not. Number 11. You must have everything figured out before acting. Myth. Truth. New clarity emerges through aligned movement. Certain understandings can only be accessed from within the next experience itself. And I heard a TikTok person just today talking about this. I don't know if I have it memorized, but they were saying something about the version of you that, I'm trying to remember what it was. Well, basically, we're always kind of looking for more clarity. I need more clarity. I need more clarity before I can move. But the thing is that the version of you that's where you are now only has the clarity for the life you've already been living. So for you to even get something that's going to register as clear to you, you have to be already in the frequency of a different timeline. So you will never actually get the fullness of the clarity that you think that you need to make a move, because the one that has the clarity is the one that moved. And so maybe it'll help you to adopt what we were just saying, or what I was just saying a second ago, on that the only thing that's in that beyond the comfort zone is more to learn about the truth of who and what you are, and the more all that you can experience. And so trusting that by continually moving toward what is exciting for you, it's even the excitement you feel in your body that is your truth. It is the clarity. It is the version of you that does know. That's why you even are getting the pull to do the things that you feel attracted to doing. So, so yeah, that really, if you're somebody that kind of gets stuck sometimes and is waiting for more clarity, it's like you don't need more clarity. You need more permission, and you need more to kind of coach yourself into more safety. And how you get there is by just knowing that no matter what, the version of me that gets the life on the other side of my comfort zone, um, if I'm not moving toward it right now, the one that moved toward it is the one that can handle it. So if you're not moving toward it, you're still identifying as the one that can't handle it, and that's why you're not moving. So these are some kind of internal things that you can say to yourself that helps kind of coach you more into it and allow you to feel like it is in the movement, in the direction toward what feels exciting, and that I'm not going to get the clarity I need until I move. And you don't even have to take big moves. Just take, what can my physical body do in this very given now moment that feels exciting? And you do that, and you follow through with it. And then you do the next stepping stone, and the next, and the next, and the next. And then and then you'll end up being like, holy crap, I'm in my dream job. I'm in my dream relationship, or whatever. Have a dream bank account. But you just do step by step in the now moment. Okay. So, number 12, myth. Fear always means stop. This plays on the one before it too. Truth. Fear can signal danger, misalignment, or simple unfamiliarity. Wisdom is learning the difference between intuition and expansion anxiety. So basically, here's the thing. If you have an excitement and there's a part of you that just, I really want to do this, but then fear comes up, those are the things where you're going to want to work on some limiting beliefs, or what we call blocks or whatever. And that's when you still move forward outside of your comfort zone to gain the clarity and all the things that you'll learn by the movement of it. This is where we do leap with fear. Okay. Now, if you have no desire, curiosity, and you're like, oh, and your body kind of shrivels at the idea of something and it has fear, that's a no for me, dog, right? So those are the things where you don't move forward. So you don't have to like move in the direction of all fears. You just move in the direction of, just remember that the ego takes the unknown and calls it fear. And your greatest desires are on the other side of your comfort zone. So the biggest leaps that are sometimes the scariest, you will need to face those fears and feel them and move past them. But what you're facing is really the kind of like death of the old version of you that held a lower capacity. So it is going to feel terrifying to who you knew yourself to be. But again, when you leap outside of the into the unknown, you're just going to discover more of the truth of who and what you are, especially if you're doing it through excitement. Now, sometimes you can have excitement mixed with fear. Those are the things that you're going to really want to point at. But like another example would be, sometimes your body will recoil. Like for instance, like it'll say, like you'll see some peanuts or something that are outside and they've been out in the sun for a while and you're kind of hungry, but you're like, should I eat those? And your body's kind of recoiling and a part of you might be fearful. Well, if your body's recoiling and you're feeling fear in that example, it might be our guidance kind of being like, hey, maybe not wise. Now, you're never going to be judged or damned by anything outside of you by eating the peanuts, because we have total free will. I mean, there's no experiences that are non-experienceable for us to have. And so, but there are sometimes signs that or signals sometimes that we're feeling intuitively that maybe we get food poisoning if we ate those. And so that's that double no. If your body's already and you're having fear or kind of something with it, that's like a not for you thing. Then start pointing in the direction of what feels good or relieving or exciting or curious or whatever. And then that's going to be pointing you somewhere else. So again, fear does not always mean stop. Number 13, myth. Your past defines your future. Myth. Your past defines your future. Truth. The idea of memory can influence our trajectories, but reorganizing... Whoops, I'm realizing I have some typos here. Oh man, okay, I'll have to do that later. Anyway, the idea of memory... The idea of memory can influence our trajectories, but recognizing where we're carrying limits and distortions can redirect us to completely different versions of the future. Yes, so here's the biggest myth too, is how often have you guys heard that we must be informed all about the past in order to make damn sure that we don't repeat it? Now, instead of challenging that as just an idea in our heads, because it kind of makes logical sense. I mean, like when people say that, it's not like, oh, that doesn't make sense. It's like, okay, yeah, we want to know what happened so that we don't repeat it. Like, it doesn't sound totally crazy when people say that. But what I want to ask you now is this: how good does it feel to believe that we have to do that? Like, do you have to know all about the past in order to not have it happen? Because what's happening more often is the more that people read, especially events that were done in separation that involve the past, the more kind of internally pissed that they are, and the more evidence of things to damn get brought up. And whatever we're damning, especially with emotional fuel, damns us back, which is basically, again, going back to one of those 5 truths that are always true, is what we put out is what we get back. So it has been true to the belief systems people have of, I must learn all about, contain all of this history that now I'm pissed about so that I don't repeat it. And they are going to see patterns of it repeating. But why? It's repeating because they're holding a bunch of things they're damning with emotional fuel, and they're holding an in the now moment, which is a fresh, brand new moment. And they're saying, look at all the stuff I don't want to have happen ever again, and I'd be really pissed if it did. And remember, the universe only says yes and. So the universe is like, oh, you're pissed and you don't want these, or you really have a lot of emphasis on these things not happening. So it registers at us of saying, putting a lot of attention on things we don't want to have happen and that piss us off. So the next day we get more confirmation of those exact things, which then we pop our collars and think, oh, damn good thing I knew about that, because these are the very things right here that I don't want to have happen. But we don't understand that it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. And what's not been experienced yet is, what if we didn't have to look all at that past, and instead, what if us calming our nervous system, not damning things with emotional fuel, but just seeing the separation in them, seeing the sin in them, if you will, and instead truly focusing on what we actually can do with our physical body in our auric eggs, where the only place we truly live is, and if we are living the change of everything that we have happened to heard about the past, but we only use the past to know how we want to show up outside of separation. And what if it was the not holding and resenting and hating and having the emotional fuel that we're carrying around? What if the freeing of that and then the new frequency of living the change is the thing that causes the change and a new version of what will eventually be called the history in the future, right? So that's what I believe is happening right now, is that all these things are coming up right now so that we can neutralize them. We can feel the angry and the impact of them, letting it digest through our body, and then seeing what we believe to be true that was not true, adjust all of those distortions so that we are not living in the survival, not living in reactivity. We go into responsiveness and in peace, and we pop up into more of the heavenly experience of life, which just means your nervous system is calm and you're not seeing separation. And then we start exuding that into a law of attracted mirrored reality, which then gives us what back? Not hell, heaven. So it's just the law of attraction showing something different. So once again, the myth is that our past defines our future. It defines it as much as we believe that it does. So it can, definitely, it's been that experience, but it's not solved anything. That's why we're so scared of patterns, is because we have so many of the patterns, but what we haven't done differently is healed and lived as the change, lived in the now. And I believe that all the prophets and Jesus and everybody, that's all that they were saying, is that heaven is here now, and to live as if that is true, being kind, living outside of sin, which means outside of separation, and living in the now moment. And by doing that, your law of attraction mirror gives you more of peaceful now. And that's the only thing that's true, because the only thing that exists is now. So why are we bringing a tainted reel, REEL, movie reel of all, this happened in the past, I'm going to bring it right here and I'm pissed about it? Well, you're bringing all of this here when you're just on a TikTok call. So we're bringing untruths into the now moment. Also, not everybody believes this. What if it were true that all of life was being actually rendered in real time in the now? You can create all of the past as an idea and have because again, the universe is only saying yes and all experiences are experienceable. But instead of asking again, what feels more true, ask yourself, what feels better to believe? Does it feel better to believe that you've got to sort through and carry a bunch of bitterness and roll up your sleeves and change everything in the external world and live just all day long with a nervous system tight in scarcity? Or does it feel better to believe that the world is rendering based on what your frequency is right now, how you're acting right now, and and that if you are in a state of peace and joy, and if you're not in this seeing separation, that the law of attraction is immediately giving you heaven, which is aligned belief. So it's giving you that right now. You don't have to be exonerated or saved in any additional way. You're saved the second that just made sense to you, because the law of attraction is immediately going to start confirming that as your truth. So no, your past does not define your future, but you can create it if you want to. Number 14, other people determine your value. Myth. Truth. External approval is a perception, not truth. This one just seems so obvious. So you are the creator of your experience. You can create the experience of other people having to determine your value, but you don't have to. Once again, not does it seem true, but how does it feel to believe that other people determine your value? You can make your discernment similar to mine, which my discernment has to do by not how much evidence I have of a belief, but how good the belief feels to play out, because all beliefs are being confirmed. So I would like to believe that my value is inherent and that I am of God, just like everybody else, and that I can have peace now, and I am of full value, and there is nothing lacking in me, and I am here to be this exact configuration of Jenna, exactly the way I am right now. That feels best for me to believe, and I feel like the better that something feels to believe, the more true it is. Okay, number 15, myth. There is one, oh, I love this one. There is one correct path for your life. Myth. There is only one correct path for your life. We talked about this a little bit earlier. But if you think about this, life is nothing but branches and branches of experiences that are experienceable with total free will, and there's nothing off limits to God because they're just experiences. There is not good or bad experiences outside of our dual experience in third dimension. So, you can't go wrong. Because again, how good does it feel that you can done fuck up your life? You can't. You can learn from any of your experiences, but from the source point of view, you are just living a slowed down branch of reality that has continuity sort of baked in and story baked in so that you can have a dense, limited version of your experience, right? But from God's perspective, you are actually simultaneously living out every single thing you could possibly imagine. So the worst horrific idea of you in jail getting hurt by someone or something, or whatever your worst thing is, or starving or whatever, and your best things that you're feeling into of being, I don't know, married to Brad Pitt and living whatever, like having tons of money and whatever it is, right? So whatever people are believing, like all of that is existing as potential probabilities and possibilities. And it's all commensurate with what you believe to be true, what you believe worthy of. Do you believe it is possible? Most things people aren't believing are possible. And so the universe is like, yes, and yes, you don't believe it's possible. I will give you more evidence of how it's not possible, right? But anyway, so and again, from the highest point of view, all experiences are simultaneous because there's only one now moment. So after we have a limited, dense experience of one branch of our life fulfilled, if we want to go back and experience any other configuration of our life, maybe you wanted a different boyfriend or girlfriend in the third grade and you wonder what your life would be like without them, guess what? You can live that out too. And again, whoa, wait a minute. Nobody's ever said, how do I know that's true? Well, you might not know it's true, but let me ask you this. Does it feel better to believe that that's true? Or does it feel better to believe like, nope, you have to live with your choices. You have no other, like you should really feel shame about it or guilt continually in your life. You should always be wondering about the one that got away and feeling lack. Like, no. What if it was true that you could also have, after this life, any branch of your life relived? How does it feel to believe that? What if you could just start believing that to be true? Because you can. Okay. So there is not just one correct path for your life. You can't actually make a mistake because every single experience is experienceable. You can damn your experience and you can feel the repercussions from that, but you're only hurting yourself. Okay, number 16. You are only your body. Myth. You're only your body. Myth. Truth. The body is an interface of experience, not the totality of consciousness. And then I wrote, think ice, water, steam, plus innumerable other things that we just can't even grok at this point of our existence. But we've got like our physical third dimensional bodies would be like ice. It's the most dense. You can't see through it. You can slap it. You feel really hard hard and solid. And this is definitely has a very different experience that's very much slower of time and space. But hold on, it's making me do the puzzle thing to say I'm still on. Okay. So, but then we also have a version of us that is kind of the water version of, it's like our oversoul, our spirit, and then our physical body. So there's all this different versions of us, sort of like ice, water, steam, are different versions of us as we come down from in the fractalized version of God. And so we are not only that, but we again are all. So that's why once you believe that to be true, you're in the now moment, you're breathing deeply, you've calmed your nervous system, and when that belief is supported, that's why we can channel. That's why we can feel into not only other beings, but we can feel into our past lives or our future lives or our galactic lives that again have coordinates in time and space that are in the 3000s or whatever. So yeah, we are definitely more than our physical bodies. Our physical bodies are just here for this third dimensional experience. Okay, what's the next one? Number 17 myth. Love must be earned. Oh, how good does that feel to believe? Myth. Love must be earned. Truth. Transactional attachment is not the same thing as love. There is no scoreboard or impending judgment day imposed by a supreme entity that is outside of you. That is absolute malarkey. So you can't not be loved, period. And if we start thinking more of love as being totality, and what if the total free will of being able to choose any and all experience through any and all vantage point, through all time and space, what if all those things together equaled the feeling of love? That much unconditionality and that much free will. So we project the idea of that onto God because it's hard for us sometimes to be that unconditional. We're like, wow, that person just did that crazy thing to that other person that caused them a lot of harm. We've got feels on that, right? But we think, well, what would Jesus do? What would God do? Or whatever. It's like, if we really truly see God as being unconditionally loving, it's not like those from that point of view that it's not obvious that an act was committed out of separation, but because God is just yes and all experiences and none of them being damned, again, that the feeling of that belief equals love. And you get to adopt that feeling to the fullness of your ability right this second. There's nothing more that you need to understand other than that. So the less that you damn anything, including yourself, especially yourself, because what we're seeing on the external is only ever a reflection of stuff we're really rejecting in ourselves anyway. So once you stop doing that, you get a very different experience of life. And it's not transactional. You can see that it is immediate, and it immediately also ties in with you don't have to do anything to become worthy. You just are by your existence. And by you like owning as much of the configuration that you're showing up in right now, because God in exactly the way you are went, yes, you exactly that way, and is not damning a single crevice in who you are. It's only glorifying the shit out of you. And so if you're not doing that, you're going to be out of alignment with how your God self is seeing yourself, and that causes pain, right? So don't do that. Okay, so false, that love must be earned. 18, if something ends, it failed. Myth, if something ends, it failed. Truth, literally all experiences are experienceable. Everything is completing exactly as it's meant to be. Remember, there are infinite timelines. There are innumerable versions of us, both beginning things and ending things at this very moment. Just ask Schrodinger. So now, of course, this one here, if something ends, it failed, is how some people believe, like, oh man, because they feel bad about it, but the reason people also are feeling bad is because they are feeling, oh, that was my one chance or the only time I'm going to see these people, because they forget that they are eternal. And they forget that there's also another 20 million lifetimes that they could, at death, reinsert themselves in and live out simultaneously too, for all of eternity. So every single person that we lose, or every event that comes to an end, is only like a bookmark. And where we suffer is when we forget that we can experience it again, because we actually limit ourselves by thinking, again, we have one chance, it's the only life I have, and I got to get it right, right? No. So there is no failing. And again, God or Source is not judging any of these timelines any better or less than any other, because God isn't just good. God is all experiences, every one of them, all the Hitlery ones, all of them, all experiences. That's what God represents, is complete and total free will. And knowing that we can learn from any experience. And sometimes what that learning is a lot of separation and a lot of what we don't prefer. But it still gets to exist, because there's not a single experience that's not experienceable. Okay, so number 19, myth, you are alone in existence. Myth, you are alone in existence. Truth, individuality arises within an interconnected field of relationship and shared awareness. You are all of existence, made up of every person, place, thing, and things you could imagine. You're all of it. You're all experiences and all people, places, and things through all of what you can even imagine as time and past, present, and future. And you can choose to feel like that's a lonely idea, but how good does it feel to believe that? Or you could choose to believe that nothing's missing, you're not lacking, nobody's lacking, you've never made a wrong choice, you are worthy, you are existence, and you get to into your bones feel the truth of all that allness, all that everythingness. You're God who has created so many friends for itself, and you get to have densified experiences with all of them in every configuration for all of time. You could not be less lonely. Number 20. This is the last one. Thank you all for listening, and I'll be open up questions on any of these after. So I appreciate you letting me do this on here. And then I will have this up on other places and stuff too. So number 20, the universe is withholding from you. Myth, the universe is withholding from you. Truth, the universe responds through belief, resonance, emotion, action, attention, perception, and timing, not punishment. So the universe is not withholding from you. And as you've heard me say before, because why? The universe is only saying two things. One, yes, and 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 yes. How is that withholding? Now, it's so yes and that it says that we can say, hey, God, I'd like to kind of have this belief that I'm limited. And the universe is like, okay, yeah. And what else would you like? I'd like to really feel like I'm a piece of shit. Okay, you're limited and you're a piece of shit, and I'm not worthy. Okay, and I've kind of done it all wrong before. Okay, and I'm really pissed about it. Can you add, like, I just want it to be just really punctuated. All right, so we're so loved, and there's really no way that we could broadcast anything at all and not get it, that we can even say untruths and get those supported for us to whatever degree we have our beliefs, resistance, emotion, action, attention, and perception, and timing a part of it. So the greater truth is there's literally nothing being withheld from us unless we believe that it's not possible, or we believe that we're unworthy, or we'll believe that we're not ready, or we need more clarity for it. Other than that, it's out there because you're God. You are it. You're not separate from it. So the more that you release it. But here's the other thing about density too, is, sometimes we have so many ideas of the things that we want and that we want to manifest. But if we really think about it, do you want to like die tomorrow? Probably not. Most people want to live till they're 80, 90, 100, whatever. So you've got lots of time. And then even past that, again, you're infinite. So you have like all these other lifetimes too, where you can still be living and getting all the things that you've ever wanted then too, because you don't end. But nonetheless, even if, just in this lifetime, if you're still wanting to have lives, the universe and your higher self is working for you to be surprised and delighted. On Christmas or whatever holidays, we don't want, I guess some people do open all their presents at once, but we can't play with all of our toys at the same time. We may open them all the same day, but like we want to have some time to digest and really spend time with the things that we want and to savor them. So usually if something's not coming that we're wanting to manifest, it's almost always because we haven't brought the truth of one of our gifts that we wanted in the past. We haven't recognized how this was a manifestation that we once had, that we are given, that we have not digested, we haven't savored, we haven't glorified. So if you're not going to get the next thing until you've played with the toy of the thing you manifested before. Sometimes we're very speedy to try to get to something else. So if you feel ever stuck like that, ask yourself, and this is a great thing that I do with my clients all the time. If right now you looked around your house or wherever you are, try to fill in the blanks here. How am I actually living in my dream life now to a version of myself from the past? How is like, okay, a version of me at one point really wanted to use a pen. And not only that, a version of me in the past preferred these kind of pens over the Bic kind. So I have really fancy, cool pens. A version of me at one time thought it was too expensive at Fred Meyer and now gets them at Costco for cheaper even. Not like, oh, that's a lack thing, but like, you know what I mean? So there's so much even in this very pen here that has to do with, and it's at my fingertips. I can like grab it right now and start writing. Thank you, old past self that wanted this. So having that occur to me and like really feeling appreciative of this pen and utilizing and playing with the pen allows me to fulfill it and then give rise to another thing that can come my way. So maybe I've recognized all this, and then the next thing is like, oh, what would this be like? And like even smoother and like kind of glittery purple. And maybe I'll get that, write it for a while, and then I'll be like, oh, what if it also like smelled like gardenia? Have you ever known of a glittery purple pen that smells like gardenia? I don't even know if that's an invention, but I'll freaking buy it, and you best believe that will come into my reality at some point if that is for me to do. God, that's such a great idea. You guys, do we know of people I know that they have like scented markers and stuff for like kids stuff, but have they ever had like designer type perfumes that are like gardenia and stuff as part of our pens? Anyway, okay, so mark my words and all of this. If that's true, and if you're the inventor of this on any of these things and happen to see it, I would like a purple pen that smells like gardenia. Preferably it writes smoothly and has glitters, please. But I'm going to enjoy the hell out of this pen in the meantime. And that's the other thing about manifestation. I'm putting that idea out. It'll be fun when I get it. Even if it's 10 years from now, I'm not in a rush because I've got an amazing pen here. And so letting go of that, not attaching to that to happen, and then also leaving comma or something better. What if there's a feature I haven't even imagined yet that's also a part of that pen too? Maybe it's velvety or something. Maybe after it's done, it's so biodegradable that you can eat it, or you can put it in your plant and it, I don't know, helps give it nutrients or something. I don't know. But anyway, So this is how we're constantly manifesting in ways for us to have time to enjoy the things, for us to appreciate them, have gratitude for them, use them up. And if you are having trouble and are feeling stuck, looking around your life and doing everything you can. This was an amazing gift that was custom made for me. It's like, I think, orgone, and it glows in the dark. I love it. I have all of these like little oils. For a while they're having just basic oils. Like this smells like dirt in like the best way. And I'm like, oh yes, it's like part of me like used to sometimes drink out of plastic. I much prefer drinking out of glass now. So I have just tons of mason jars. I even had more of the old crusty stuff, and I more recently was like, I'd like to have a purple lid. So I got better lids for them. You see what I mean? I'm constantly living in upgraded heaven all the freaking time. And I get more things probably than most people do because I appreciate them, I savor them, I recognize them as heaven, and I suck the marrow out of it enough to where it's like, okay, I feel now complete with it, making room for what's next, but I don't like have to have what's next. So I have a lot of patience, and that's the key to good manifestation. Okay, you guys, so I've gone over now all of the 20 of the biggest untruths of the world, and thank you so much for letting me do this. Excuse me, if you liked what you heard today, this is actually going to go up. I don't know if I'm going to edit it. I probably won't. I'll just probably like leave it like this. But on, where you can imagine it will go up on other things, all the other things. Well, not all of them, probably the one that allows you to do the longest thing. So that's where that's going to go. And I think it's up there. If you're not there, you can just find me the way people find people. I'm on the things, and I'm Jenna Lemire. Now, for those who I'm going to stop this. I don't know. Maybe you guys have good questions that should be on this. I don't know. Well, I don't want this to be too long, so I'm going to keep on TikTok here. I'm going to stop this recording. Thank you all. And just give me one sec. So for anybody seeing this on where I said this was going to be, and if you ever, if you're having any if you're struggling with any of these things, I have so many considerations for each one of those 20 things that I mentor through to get you so solid so that all of your self-talk matches those things so that you can start living those truths and punching holes in the distortions of it. So if you ever are wanting to have someone that can help you with that, I do one-on-one stuff. I also have private group that you can ask me about. It's kind of a limited group, but anyway, it's called Within a Group Healing Experience. We do this kind of stuff, and we talk about all manner of non-ordinary reality topics. And I do a lot of like hot seat type of things where we do like, emotional healing work and stuff. So anyway, tons and tons of ways that we can work together, but I am happy to help. It is my greatest passion to talk about these things. So definitely reach out to me if you need anything at all. And I love you guys. Follow, like, do all the things if you want, or if you don't. Okay, I love you. Bye. Okay, stop.